The king in the north!
Dracarys.
I will hurt you for this.
I am the sword in the darkness.
Lion doesn't concern himself with the opinions of the sheep.
Let me give you some advice, bastard.
Chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder.
People love blood when it's not their own. But tavern brawls are boring, and wars never have good seating. Thus, the famed fighting pits of Mereen opened shortly after the city's own founding. And I heard that originally the combats were a blood sacrifice to the gods of Geese, the empire that founded Mereen. Some still believe they are, but the Giscari Empire died a long time ago and their gods went with them. Yet the pits remained open, filling the city's purse with gold from the ends of the earth. I suppose the fighting pits are a blood sacrifice after all. Only the gods changed.
What is up, everybody? Jeremy Eisenfire here, and welcome to the channel. The Pit Fighters of Mereen stand as some of the finest fighters in all of A Song of Ice and Fire, of whom we have met a few of in the past, such as Daario Naharis, Strong Belwas, and even Ser Jorah Mormont himself spent some time in the fighting pits. But one pit fighter stands head and shoulders above the rest, in both size, skill, and ferocity, and that is none other than Sandoq the Shadow, of whom we get a really interesting passage of in Fire and Blood during the reign of King Aegon III, not long after the Dance of the Dragons. During the regency of King Aegon III, a plot rose up against House Rogaire, when King Aegon III's regents called for the arrest of Lady Lara Rogaire, who was married to Viserys Targaryen at the time, King Aegon III's younger brother. But unfortunately for the plotters, they would come face to face with the Shadow himself. Sir Amory Peake approached Maegor's Holdfast with a dozen men at arms. He found Viserys Targaryen himself upon the drawbridge, a battle axe in hand. It was a heavy axe. The prince, a somewhat spindly boy of 3 and 10, the Fool Mushroom tells us, one doubted that he could even lift the axe, let alone wield it. "If you are come to take my lady wife, sir, turn and go," the young prince said, "for you shall not pass whilst I stand." Sir Amory found his shadow of defiance more amusing than threatening. "Your lady wife is wanted for questioning in connection with treason of her brothers," he told the prince. "And who is it who wants her?" the prince demanded. "The hand of the king," Sir Amory replied. "Lord Rowan?" asked Viserys. "Lord Rowan has been removed from the office. Sir Marston Waters is the new hand of the king." At that moment, Aegon III himself stepped from the Holdfast gate and stood beside his brother. "I am the king," his grace reminded them, "and I never chose Sir Marston for my hand." Aegon's intervention took Sir Amory Peake aback, Mushroom tells us, but after a moment's hesitation he said, "Your grace is still a boy. Until you come of age, sire, your liege lords must make such choices for you. Sir Marston was chosen by your regents." "Lord Rowan is my regent," the king insisted. "No longer," said Sir Amory. "Lord Rowan betrayed your trust. His regency is at an end." "By whose authority?" demanded Aegon. "The hand of the king," said the White Knight. Prince Viserys laughed at that, for Aegon never laughed to Mushroom's dismay, and said, "The hand names the regent, and the regent names the hand, and round and round and round we dance. But you shall not pass, sir, nor shall you touch my wife. Be gone, or I promise you, every man of you shall die here." Then Sir Amory Peake ran short of patience. He could not allow himself to be balked by 2 boys, one of 15 and one of 13, the elder unarmed. "Enough," he said. He ordered his men to move the boys aside. "Be gentle with them, and see that they come to no harm at our hands." "This is on your head, sir," Prince Viserys warned. He drove his axe deep into the wood of the drawbridge, scampered back, and said, "Go no further than the axe, or you shall die." The king took him by the shoulder and drew him back into the safety of the Holdfast, and a shadow stepped onto the drawbridge. Sandoq the Shadow had come from Lys with Lady Lara, a gift from her father by the Magister Lysandrio. Black of skin and black of hair, he stood almost 7 feet tall. His face, which he kept often hidden behind a black veil, was a mass of thin white scars, and his lips and his tongue had been removed, leaving him both mute and hideous to look upon. It is said of him that he had been the victor of 100 fights in the death pits of Mereen, that he had once torn out the throat of a foe with his teeth after his sword had shattered, that he drank the blood of the men he killed, that in the pits he had slain lions, bears, wolves, and wyverns with no weapon but the stones he found upon the sands. Such tales grow in the telling, to be sure, and we cannot know how much of this, if any, is to be believed. Though Sandoq could not read or write, Mushroom tells us he was fond of music, and would oft sit in the shadows of Lady Laura's bedchamber playing sweet, sad notes on a queer stringed instrument made of golden heart and ebony that stood nearly as tall as he did. I could sometimes make the lady laugh, though she did not understand more than a few words in our tongue, the fool says, but the shadow's playing always made her weep, and strange to say, she liked that better. It was a different sort of music that Sandoq the Shadow played at the gates of Maegor's Holdfast, as Sir Omri's guardsmen rushed at him with sword and spear. That night, his chosen instruments were a tall black shield of nightwood, boiled hide and ironed, and a great curved sword with a dragonbone hilt, whose dark blade shone in the torchlight with distinctive ripples of Valyrian steel. His foes howled and cursed and shouted as they came at him, but the Shadow made no sound, save with his steel, sliding through them silent as a cat, his blade whistling left and right, up and down, drawing blood with every cut, slashing through their mail as if they had been clad in parchment. Mushroom, who claims to have seen the battle from the roof above, testifies that it did not look so much like a sword fight as like a farmer reaping grain, with every stroke living men who screamed and cursed as they fell. Sir Omri's men did not lack for courage, and some lived long enough to strike blows of their own, but the Shadow, always moving, caught their blades upon his shield, then used that shield to shove them backward, off the bridge onto the hungry iron spikes below. Let this be said of Sir Omri Peake. His dying did not disgrace the Kingsguard. 3 of his men were dead upon the drawbridge, and 2 more were twisting on the spikes below by the time Peake arrived and slid his own blade from its scabbard. He was clad in white scale armor, his helm was open-faced, and he had not brought a shield. And sorely did Sandoq make him answer for these lacks. The Shadow made a dance of it, the fool says. Betwixt each fresh wound he dealt Sir Omri, he would kill one of his remaining minions before turning back to the White Knight. Yet Peake fought on with stubborn valor, and near the end, for half a heartbeat, the gods gave him a chance when the last of the guards somehow got his hand around Sandoq's sword and ripped it from the Shadow's grasp before he went tumbling off the bridge. From his knees, Sir Omri staggered back to his feet and charged his unarmed foe. Then Sandoq tore Viserys' battle-axe from the wood where the prince had buried it, and split Sir Omri's head and helm in half from crest to gorget, leaving the corpse to topple onto the spikes. The Shadow paused long enough to shove the dead and dying from the drawbridge before retreating inside Maegor's Holdfast, whereupon the king commanded the bridge to be raised, and there it would remain for 18 days. During a period of time that would become known as the Secret Siege. Overall, Sandoq the Shadow is one of the most fascinating characters in Fire and Blood. Standing at over 7 feet tall and covered in scars, one might think that he would just be a mindless brute from the fighting pits of Mereen. But with George peeling some of those layers back, we start to see that Sandoq is much more than that. He delights in music and is silent as a cat and is clearly very swift for someone his size. All in all, making him not only the deadliest of foes, but an interesting character study to say the least as well. And I am certainly looking forward to learning a lot more about Sandoq the Shadow when Fire and Blood Part 2 comes out and we learn a little bit more about the rest of the reign of King Aegon III. But that is going to do it for us today. If you enjoyed this chapter reread of Fire and Blood, definitely leave a like on your way out, and if you would like to hear any other chapters reread, definitely leave those in the comment section below. And as always, I want to give a big thank you to everybody out there for watching, and we will see you on the next one.
King in the North!
Dracarys.
I will hurt you for this.
I am the sword in the darkness.
Lion doesn't concern himself with the opinions of the sheep.
Let me give you some advice, bastard.
Chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder.